hurricanes, tropical cyclones, intense rainfall, heat waves and melting glaciers, drought, flooding, tornadoes, and who could forget the disaster brought about by Typhoon Ondoy, where millions of our countrymen lost their homes, loved ones, and their livelihood, all because of one intense typhoon. Have you noticed that these extreme weather events have been increasingly frequent and intense lately? This and other natural events mentioned comprise the manifestations of what is referred to as climate change, that is eventually starting to affect the way we live our lives today. So what is climate change? According to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, it is a change in climate which is attributed directly or indirectly to human activity that alters the composition of the global atmosphere, which is in addition to the natural climate variability observed over a comparable period of time. Basically, climate change is brought about by an increase in temperature of the Earth's surface due to the rapid accumulation of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which in turn result to extreme changes in weather events and sea level rise. Such events would then create several impacts on the major sectors of society, such as coastal and marine ecosystem, agriculture, health, forestry, and biodiversity and water resources. According to the fourth assessment report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, the rise in temperature has been likely caused by human activity, which resulted to increases in the release of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. A greenhouse gas is a gas in the atmosphere that can both absorb and emit radiation. These greenhouse gases include water vapor, clouds, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and halocarbons. These are produced from natural processes such as water cycle, growth and death of plants and animals, decay of wood and other biodegradable materials, and volcanic activities. These are naturally occurring gases that influence our planet's atmosphere by trapping the heat coming from the sun, thus keeping us comfortably warm enough, henceforth referred to as the greenhouse effect. Unfortunately, humans are affecting atmospheric greenhouse gas concentrations by introducing new sources or by adding more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere through their activities. Human-induced or anthropogenic sources of GHGs, such as carbon dioxide, produced from burning of fossil fuels, has disrupted the natural process of eliminating greenhouse gases from the Earth's atmosphere. Furthermore, levels of emissions from other greenhouse gases, such as methane and nitrous oxide, increased through other human activities such as deforestation, emissions from motor vehicles and power plants, to name just a few. Thus, the increased accumulation of these human-induced greenhouse gases resulted to enhanced greenhouse effect. This enhanced greenhouse effect is why our planet is in crisis. Global warming is happening. Our climate is changing. How are we directly affected by climate change anyway? In a nutshell, the faster the climate changes, the greater risk of damage. The IPCC Fourth Assessment Report tells that global average surface temperature increased by 0.74 degrees Celsius for the period of 1906 to 2005, which is higher than the third assessment report of 0.6 degrees Celsius for the period of 1901 to 2000. Global average sea level rose due to increase in the global average surface temperature at an average rate of 1.8 millimeters per year from 1961 to 2003, or a total of 0.17 meters for the 21st century. Observations since 1961 show that the average ocean temperature has reached to depths of at least 3,000 meters, and that the ocean has been absorbing more than 80% of the heat added to the climate system. This warming causes the sea to expand and sea level rises. And in effect, there are changes in evaporation, rainfall patterns, and extreme weather conditions. Future projections of further warming and increasing sea level rise within the 21st century may bring about a chain of disastrous events that may in turn exacerbate major sectors such as coastal and water resources, agriculture, forest and biodiversity, human health, industry, and energy. So, what is our country doing about this? As a country party to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or UNFCCC, the Philippines is committed to prepare and submit our national communication highlighting our national greenhouse gas inventory, which shall be periodically updated and published. A greenhouse gas inventory is a type of emission inventory that is developed for a variety of reasons. Scientists use inventories of natural and anthropogenic or human-caused emissions as tools when developing atmospheric models. Policymakers use inventories to develop strategies and policies for emissions reductions and to track the progress of those policies. The GHG inventory covers 5 main sectors, namely energy, industry, agriculture, waste and land use change, and forestry. After years of ignoring reports and warnings from the scientific community, governments from all over the world are now starting to heed the call for change. Even if global warming and sea level rise are expected to continue for centuries, we can still slow down its effects either by reducing or storing emissions of greenhouse gases in our present and future activities. Thus, these are referred to as mitigation measures. Here in the Philippines, several mitigation measures have been initiated by our local agencies, addressing the 5 main sectors. In 2005, the Bangi Bay Wind Energy Project was born. As the first wind farm in Southeast Asia, the Bangi windmills supply 25 megawatts to the Luzon grid. Through the project, highly polluting diesel-based power generation will be displaced, thereby reducing emission of greenhouse gases and other pollutants. Our government is currently very active in promoting alternative fuels for the transport sectors. You may have seen these prototypes roaming our streets today. They are the CNG buses that run on compressed natural gas, electric jeepneys and tricycles, and the most popular choice for the masses, the MRT and LRT systems. The Kalinisan Laundry installed a biomass-based boiler to replace its existing bunker fuel-fired boilers.
Gawa po kami ng mga laundry services ng malalaking hotel, hospital, ganun din po yung mga uniforme. Ang boiler po namin, ang gatong nga po namin ay IPA, mga 3 truck per day or around 60,000 kilos. So ang planta po namin, nag-operate po kami ng 7 days a week, 365 days in a year. So ganun po karami yung ipang ginagamit po namin.
The boiler utilizes rice husks as the primary biomass fuel for heat generation. The steam generated will be used in the laundry facility, while the excess will be sold to neighboring industrial facilities. This will result to partial displacement of fossil fuel oil on the part of these industries who are currently using bunker fuel oil. In 2007, the local government of Quezon City signed an agreement with Italy-based environmental firm Pangea Green Energy and its local counterpart Pangea Philippines for the development and implementation of the biogas emissions reduction project.
This is a typical gas well. Yun nga ho sabi namin dito, this is 25 to 30 meters. At ito po ang coverage nito, yung gas ay ini-expect namin na within 30 meters pumapasok dito. Mayroon mga gadgets to control the flow of the gas. And then pag marami hong tubig dito, sa planta ho nalalaman ni na Marvin na mayroon tubig, so binabawasan nila ang tubig actually.
The project consists in the landfill gas extraction from Payatas controlled dam site and through mechanism of compression, cleaning. The project destroys the methane that is included inside the landfill gas and produce electricity for the plant at moment, and also destroy the methane in a big flare. The power of the flare is 2,500 cubic meter per hour. The project is able to produce 100,000 tons of CO2 avoided each year. And then based on the CDM procedure, it's a big-scale project.
The project, which converts biogas emissions into electricity, will reduce greenhouse gas emissions, resulting to improved air, water and soil quality, eliminate fires and explosion hazards, and trash slides in the dump site. The Philippine Sinter Corporation is a standalone iron ore sintering plant located in Mindanao.
Now we are here in the area where our sinter cooler waste heat recovery plant is located. With this construction, Philippine Sinter Corporation has substantially reduced carbon emission, which could have been generated from a fuel-based power plant. The corresponding power generated from this plant has helped the company manage the power requirement, especially during these critical times wherein power availability in Mindanao has become scarce.
The plant takes inputs of iron ore, coal, and limestone and processes them ready for use in blast furnaces. The sintered ore is exported to Japan for use in integrated steelworks. The sintered ore is produced at very high temperatures, then cooled before being stored. The ore was cooled using electric fans, and the heated air is expelled through heat stacks. However, under its Sinter Cooler Waste Heat Recovery Power Generation project, the heated air from the cooling process is passed through a boiler before being expelled. The steam from this boiler is used to drive an 18.6 megawatt turbine, producing electricity for use at the Sinter plant. With the project, some of the power coming from the fossil fuel power plants are displaced, thus contributing to a reduction in the emission of greenhouse gases from the Mindanao grid. In organic farming, various organic-based agriculture programs are in effect, such as Balanced Fertilization Strategy, Agri-Kalikasan Program, Organic Fields Support Project, and Organic Fertilizer Production Project. In general, these programs minimize the use of chemical fertilizers, discourage the burning of rice straws and other farm residues, and encourage proper management and recycling of farm wastes into organic fertilizers. Lastly, the Land Use Change and Forestry, or LUCF sector. Tropical deforestation is a significant source of carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas emission. But according to the Greenhouse Gas Inventory of 2000, an 81% decrease in GHG emissions was reported here in the Philippines. The LUCF sector recorded a significant sink of carbon. This is probably the result of lower deforestation rates from 1990 to year 2000. If you think that it is the sole responsibility of our leaders to reduce greenhouse gases, think again. Every individual is responsible in taking care of our God-given surroundings. Now that we are in a global crisis, each person has a moral responsibility to do his part. Here are some very doable measures that you can do starting now. Share with your friends and family what you have learned from this presentation. Save electricity by turning off lights that you don't need and by using energy-efficient appliances. Items left on standby can use up to 85% of